Did you start? It started already?
Yeah,
Yes.
mine did the same thing. That may not be an uncommon thing that happens tonight with this weather.
So, Jeff, I
Yeah.
think only Valerie is here along with my presence, so we're not going to be able to field a quorum at the moment.
Okay, David.
All right, David.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda items. Approved minutes of the January 29th, 2020 joint meeting of the Hamilton-Wenham Board of Selectmen and Finance Advisory Committee and the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School District Capital Financial Planning Subcommittee. Approved minutes of the February 10th, 2020, February 24th, 2020, March 16th, 2020 Board of Selectmen meetings. Approved minutes of the special meeting March 3rd, 2020 Board of Selectmen, and approved minutes of the emergency joint meeting on March 23rd, 2020 Board of Selectmen and Board of Health.
So moved.
Second, anybody?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
No, roll call vote. Roll call vote.
All vote, okay.
Okay, Darcy Dale, aye.
William Olson, aye.
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Sean Farrell, aye.
Jeff Hubbard, aye.
Okay, that's got it. All right.
Thank you. All right, on to the agenda. Well, in terms of updates, Rosie, did you have an update about the Affordable Housing Trust you wanted to mention?
Oh, yes. There are a couple of things. First thing is that the Affordable Housing Trust voted unanimously to support the Willow Street project at Max Shoe. The other part of that is I had still advocated for some senior 60% AMI restricted apartments. The developer rejected the request for 4 senior apartments, stating that he wouldn't be able to make it economically feasible. And so my counter to that was, if the Affordable Housing Trust and Hamilton Development Corporation together could fund 2 and pay that to the developer, it would really provide some much needed true senior affordable housing in our town. And so during the conversation, I spoke with, during our meeting of the AHT, spoke with both Rick Mitchell and Brian Stein, who felt that was something that we could viably talk about and perhaps resolve the issue among the 2 boards. I'm very committed to senior housing and felt that even though we couldn't have 4, it would certainly be helpful to have at least 2 affordable senior units at 60% AMI, and that the town could take responsibility for providing those 2 senior units. So we have yet to have a meeting set up for that, and Russ Tanzer is at this point reaching out to Rick Mitchell to set up an appointment.
Okay. All
So
right.
Rosie, would there be 4 altogether, 4 units for seniors altogether?
No, there would be
Just
2.
2.
I mean, certainly anybody could rent the units, but the reality is that seniors really tend to live on fixed incomes.
Right.
And although the units are small, which would be great for a senior single or senior couple, they'll really be too expensive at 80% AMI or market rate. So I thought that this would be a great gesture toward helping to provide some real senior housing for those who aren't in the very lowest incomes, but aren't at 80% either. And it seems like it would be a fair start and a helpful start to our seniors.
I agree. Thank you.
So we'll see what happens.
Yep.
Support is certainly needed, and anybody who wants to join in on the conversation, please do. I can let people know when that meeting will be.
Jeff, can I ask Rosie a question on that?
Please.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. Rosie, I've watched the last 2 of those meetings and I didn't read through all of it, but was there any information on since they're rental units, what the rent would be? They seem to be all about 800 or 900 square feet, if I'm remembering
Probably,
correctly.
yeah, probably a little less than that, Sean. And the rent would be about $2,200 and 80% would be about 1,800. And that's
That's still pretty high, yeah.
still pretty high for seniors. And I would love some support helping to negotiate this. I mean, it's a great location. It's downtown. Many of our seniors live in town, and I know that if they needed to downsize, they would certainly appreciate being able to stay in town. So that's my mission, and I hope that people will join in and help support this very worthy endeavor.
Excuse me. Sorry.
I don't know, I know we have to be careful about discussion. This is just a reporting time, but I don't know how you all feel about maybe adding this to our next agenda. But I feel like it's maybe a little bit of a quagmire where the Affordable Housing Trust is taking $500,000 and essentially paying the Hamilton Development Corporation that money. I don't know if other people feel the same way, but maybe we can add it to the agenda.
Maybe that's where our Tom McEnany can help us too. There might be some legal ramifications.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Thank you, Rosie.
Thank you
Okay.
for the opportunity.
Yeah, on to the agenda item. David, I guess an update on COVID-19 would be great.
Okay, let me start. First, a question. Can all of you hear me? Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
wonderfully.
Okay, great. A brief report. Here we go. I'm going to start with Hamilton. As of today, April 13th, we have a total of 3 positive cases of COVID-19 in Hamilton, meaning 3 of our residents have tested positive. Historically, we've had a total of, we've had 6 other cases that are now, I'll call it expired, in the sense that they were tested positive, they went into the isolation protocol, completed the protocol, and are now, I guess you would say, safe. They are no longer contagious, so they're free to move about the community. What that means is we've had a total of 9 positive cases. Currently active only 3. We are also tracing the contacts, or I'm sorry, tracking the contacts of 7 people. That would be 7 people who are in the the quarantine protocol, meaning they've had contact with a person who tested positive. And so we have to track them. Those are the latest numbers for you. Any questions about those?
No.
Well, I'm glad you expanded on the concept of expired.
Yeah. Yes, David. They're alive and well. Now, speaking of which, there have been there's a total of 1 death attributable to COVID-19 in a Hamilton resident. There is a question of whether the number is actually 2, which has to do with what is actually the official town of residence of that person. That apparently is subject to, I don't know, discussion, debate. And anyway, the official record at the moment is 1 resident of the town has died as a result of COVID, as a specific result of COVID-19. Just by way of comparison, I looked today at the numbers in Wenham, and Wenham has currently 7 active cases, so more than twice what we've got.
Wow.
And to put a little more context on it, Essex County right now has a total of almost 3,500. That's 3,500 active cases. The vast majority of those are for residents in the towns of Lowell, Lawrence, and Lynn and its environs, Chelsea and Revere specifically. So those 5 towns account for the vast majority of the 3,500 positives in Essex County as of today. I've been plotting the curve of the Essex County COVID positives. And initially, we were going up exponentially. And I think you know what that means. The curve looks like it's going forever up into the sky. In the last, almost the last week, maybe the last 4 or 5 days, I've seen the curve now flatten to that's not the right, no, sorry, wrong word. It's gone linear, meaning we're no longer going exponential. That is, the numbers in Essex County are rising linearly. What I have not seen yet, unfortunately, is any flattening of the curve. I'm desperately hoping we'll see a flattening of the curve soon, but as of yet, that has not yet happened. And then just to put this in further context, we in Hamilton with 3 active cases are something like 1/10 the per capita average of Essex County. So we're really doing very well in Hamilton, and I'll follow up on that in a moment. So that's the picture in Hamilton, Wenham, and Essex County as of today. Let me pose the question again. Any questions about that?
Yes,
Yeah,
I wanted.
Go
Oops.
ahead, Darcy.
I
Go
just wanted to know, it's a function of density then, these numbers that are increasing, it's a function of density. So you're going to see it in the, is that right? It's all about density.
Darcy, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
The more densely, the more closely packed people live together, then the higher the incidence of COVID-19 positives. That's kind of just simple social behavior, human nature. Absolutely.
Okay. So that's a plug for having open space.
Yeah.
There you go. I've already thought about that. You're absolutely correct. Now, let me put this in further context. A couple of days ago, MIT issued a study, which is fascinating because it confirms everything that our Board of Health members and staff have strongly suspected all along. Mm-hmm. That is the number of positives that we're seeing. That is the number of people who have had a test for COVID-19 turn out positive is just the tip of the iceberg of what proportion of the population is really infected. That is, has contracted COVID-19. The MIT study, this is very interesting, collected samples from a major metropolitan area wastewater treatment plant.
Yes.
And they tested it. And there's some precedent for this because I know that this has been done before to look at the prevalence of antibiotics in our waterways. And when we discharge from a sewage treatment plant, to the extent that the population that is served by that plant is taking a lot of antibiotics and they get flushed through, it gets into the waterways and that can be harmful. Mm-hmm. The MIT study took that principle and studied, we're pretty sure it's from the MWRA. They found that 10 times the incidence of what we see from testing is actually the real number of people who are infected with COVID-19. Mm. So in other words, let's just take that to Hamilton. If in Hamilton at the moment we have 3 active cases, the real number is probably 30.
30, yep.
But they haven't been tested, partly because they're either asymptomatic or they have only very light symptoms and haven't felt a need to get tested or haven't been approved to be tested. So David, bear that in mind.
David, why are they not testing people who are asymptomatic but have been in touch with known cases? Because as a scientist, that really concerns me. That's where we should be looking, is at the contacts of the contacts and the contacts.
Right. We assume they're infected, and that's why we put them into what's called the quarantine protocol for 14 days. And at the end of 14 days, they are released from quarantine protocol if they are still asymptomatic. And the reason for that is that the data indicates that from the date of contact with an infected person, the symptoms may develop as late as 14 days after that. But if you get through that 14-day period and you're still asymptomatic, that probably means one of 2 things. Either you did not get infected, or you did get infected and your immune system was strong enough to fight it off.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Now, let me continue a little more on Hamilton. You know, is Joe on the phone still? Is Joe on the line?
Yes, I'm here, David.
Hi. Joe, you remember a couple of weeks ago, we started this public education campaign to try to induce everyone to start wearing masks when they're in public places. And I'm thrilled to see how that's worked out. I think clearly as a result of our public health education campaign, I see now almost every person that I observed down at our little shopping center is wearing a mask. And I think that's great. I'm really thrilled at that. I also noticed even on yesterday, Easter Sunday, on a really beautiful weather day, there's almost no one out and about. So the stay-at-home order, I think, is working well. All of these things are helping to prevent the COVID-19 virus from spreading, and that's all good news. So it goes back in part to what Darcy raised, and that is we have a relatively low population density, and so by taking these measures of staying at home, wearing masks, and observing the physical distancing, we're keeping it under control in Hamilton, and so I'm thrilled at that. So here's my little unscientific observation. I've been going down to the parking lot out in front of Crosby's pretty much every day over the past week. And about a week ago, I saw relatively few people wearing masks. Over this weekend, I saw almost everyone wearing a mask. And as you may know, the governor issued last week on Thursday, I think it was, a new order on grocery stores and kind of tightening the protocols that grocery stores had to follow. So I'm very interested in this, partly because I shop at Crosby's a lot, partly because I know that's where I think our residents get the most congregated of anywhere in town. And I thought I really want to keep track of this. So I've opened a dialogue with Al Shepard, the store manager. I've been in the store a couple of times with a mask on and gloves on and trying to see what's going on. It's my observation that our Crosby's is really doing a commendable job of trying to comply with all these orders on grocery stores. I do have an active dialogue going on with Al on how the Crosby store is, in fact, in detail complying with the latest order, which is pretty complicated and pretty comprehensive. And so far, I'm very pleased at what I've observed they're doing. And I'll give you one example. On Sunday, I spoke with one of the staff who was out in the parking lot, and I said, how is this line working out? And she said, we're following the 1 out, 1 in rule. And that is, we monitor how many people are in the store. And once we get to the threshold, nobody goes in until somebody comes out. And all the people were standing in line 6 feet apart at least. They had masks on. And I thought that was pretty good evidence that they're doing a good job of this. So that's the story on my unscientific observation of what's going on, and in particular, how Crosby's is complying with all of these rules and regulations that now govern grocery store operations. And last, just a question, Joe. Joe, you were going to Michelle, I think, put a special page on the town website for COVID-19. Is that up and running yet?
I don't believe it's up and running yet. It should be up this week. I know Michelle was working through some final things with Sterling on it last week, so hopefully we'll make a big announcement about it the next day or two to get all of our information up in one place.
Okay, great. That's my report.
Jeff, could I just read a couple of things from the chat line that Mary Beth Ting, the public health nurse in Wenham, has joined the call, and she wanted to clarify a couple of things. She said, for one thing, Wenham is not reporting their cases the same way. They have 7 cases total. They're not reporting active cases versus past cases. So by their standards, we'd have 9 cases, not 3. So that's one thing. And then in answer to Darcy's question, she also said that although the state is getting more access to testing, there's still not enough available to test all the individuals they'd like to. So they're prioritizing with healthcare workers, public safety, et cetera, in that order, and then getting to the people that they can to. So just wanted to share that information from Mary Beth. Right. Mary Beth, thank you for.
Right. Mary Beth is absolutely correct. There simply is not enough testing going on. And the results of the MIT study that was published last week absolutely confirm that. And as all of us, and Mary Beth would agree, probably know, you take the number of official positives per testing, the real number is probably 10 times that.
Yeah, that's right. David, may I ask, would you consider making the wearing of a mask mandatory before they enter a building like a store or a pharmacy or any?
Is that Darcy?
Yes,
Darcy, is that you?
Yes, it is.
The answer is, at our Board of Health meeting on Wednesday, we are taking up that question, and we're going to take a vote on doing exactly that.
Okay. They did it in Salem and I think Danvers.
They've done it in several towns south of us. You're absolutely correct. Yep.
Thank you.
So the answer is I'm going to guess we probably will have that order go into effect at our board meeting on Wednesday.
Okay, great. Thank you.
David, just to clarify, are you talking in enclosed spaces like a grocery store or CVS? Or are you talking went outside, period?
All right. As a minimum, the former, possibly the latter. We will discuss that on our board at our board meeting.
Okay. So the other part of that is a day like today, a mask would get wet and be totally useless. So.
Yeah, I can attest to the fact that
the rain probably keeps the concentration low. If you're if you have virus in the air and it's raining, the concentration of the virus would be very low.
Right, and it would push it downward. So just a thought.
Yes,
I think it's.
I thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I think indoors in grocery stores, in enclosed spaces, I see, like you, David, I see most people wearing masks, and I do think it's a very good idea. So.
Yeah, and Rosemary, as an absolute minimum, I'm sure we'll vote along those lines, but perhaps carry it further remains to be seen.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, David.
Thank you very much, David, for the update.
Okay. You're welcome.
Don't forget about 5 minutes before the meeting is supposed to start, and you have a quorum of the Wenham Board of Selectmen has now joined us. So
terrific. So, Joe, do you briefly want to give us an update on town operations before we switch over?
Operations are continuing as we've been talking about. We're trying to minimize access to town workers, to the public, to each other. I've taken to working a little bit more from home and taking some vacation days to try to minimize my presence in the building so that folks that feel like they need to be there to do things can be. I stayed home today. Originally, I was planning to be there today, but I had a report that we had about 11 people planning to be there. I figured, well, let's get that under 10. So we got it down to 9 today. Marissa's done the same. I appreciate that. We'll continue to work to keep that down as much as possible. And we've begun conversations with the department heads. We had a department head Zoom meeting this morning to talk about both finding savings in the current year's budget while trying to hold our employees harmless and start to think about FY21 as well. We recognize that we're probably going to, at this point, have to make some changes to the budget proposal that had been approved for the town meeting. So whenever we have a town meeting, we'll be updating the budget proposal. And I will let you know, too, that we did late Friday. I haven't had a chance to review it, but late Friday, we got the latest version of a draft warrant for the annual town meeting. So other than updating the budget, I'll be reviewing that tomorrow with Marissa, and then we'll circulate it to the board and the FinCom and everybody else so you can get a look at it before too long. But the budget won't be updated yet. It'll take some time.
Okay.
That's all I have on that.
All right.
Joe, has a letter gone out to citizens regarding the timing of property tax payments?
The state decided that we didn't need to do a letter. We needed to, instead of a letter, we had to put it on our Facebook and town website and other social
Right.
media sites and all those places. And Jeff's video message served that purpose. So
That's-
it should be in writing on the website now. And Jeff's video has been circulated via Facebook and other social media sites. And I believe they made a code red call as well. If they haven't, we'll get that out.
Yeah.
Did anybody get a code red call on that?
No. But
All
we
right, so
can.
I'll check in and we'll get the code red call out on that as well, okay?
Thank you.
All
Do
right,
you think we can update Jeff's video so that it's continually being added to Facebook? Because I know when you have a whole bunch of time, it gets lower and lower in the queue, so to speak.
yeah, sure, I can ask Bobby if we can try to,
Every once in a while.
so I'm gonna just do something here. I'm gonna mute everybody's mic so that we can try to minimize
interfere.
feedback here.
Yeah.
So except for, I'll try to recognize speakers as we go through. All right, so I'm still up, but then I'll turn this back over to Jeff. But yeah, I'll talk to Bobby tomorrow about making sure that we get everybody get that posted at least once a week, so it's constantly refreshed on the social media for the next couple of weeks. All right. And okay, Rosie wants to speak.
Yeah, I just have something rather nice, good news to say. Joe, I talked to you last week about getting a marriage license, and that did work out. And lo and behold, some friends had a drive-by wedding yesterday, so that's very exciting. So I'm very impressed with town services. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I was muted. Now I'll say, yes, thank you, Rosie. Everybody's been working really hard to try to continue to meet the needs of the town in very trying circumstances. So I appreciate you sharing that information. That's great.
Joe, I sent you that email yesterday on the other thing that you can look into. And there's any note on now you want to talk about next week, or just to make sure that we just have a different issue with water now, right? Different water usage than we've had in the past. Just want to make sure we don't think we need to worry about with all the residents being home 24/7. So
yep, I'll talk to Tim about it tomorrow, and we'll try to get you an answer on that. It's hard to make a guess without really taking a look at how we can kind of estimate that usage for you. Okay. All right, I'll turn it back over to Jeff. Jeff, you can unmute yourself too, I think so.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Joe.